Hey everyone, it's Icebound Slam Gaming, and today we have a Water Nico deck for you. Obviously it's going to be water, it's mill, it is going for Ravishing Finale. Not much to talk about in terms of what the deck is about. I think you guys know, but at the beginning of MRC, we definitely thought that, Nico and mill was kind of still a meme, a little bit copium, definitely better than any of the previous sets, but still didn't seem quite there. But as Ascent has happened and some regionals have happened, Nico's Water Mill has been slowly, creeping its way up the ladder and, topping some of those events. Just at our Michigan Regional, 2 of them topped. So here's our take on the deck essentially, and let's just jump right in. So it plays Spirit of Serene Water. This isn't that crazy. A lot of Nico decks started running this. I saw an opponent who was on Serene Water Nico against me, played against me, and I was really confused because I was like, why would you want that, right? You're drawing one less card, and then you lose the ability to use water. I was like, oh duh, I'm stupid. Obviously get, Nico turns water back on. So this is essentially just gets to glimpse, set up our hand exactly the way we want it to, and then later on we get a 6 heal, which is very huge because we are going to level 2 and we are level 2 Guardian, and level 2 Guardian has 25 health just as much as some level 3 champions as well. So essentially we are a level 3 champion health pool with a 6 heal as well, but I'll only be going to level 2. All you need to do is get to level 2 for that health pool. So very strong there. Level 1 Tenoris, we've seen a couple different people run stuff like Tristan level 1 for that agility, so you get to play something and hold up a couple cards. In this, because we are going the self-mill strategy at the very beginning of the game, we need this class bonus as early as possible. A lot of our floating memory is Guardian class bonus, and so we don't want to miss out on that. Maybe the taunt comes in, doesn't really come up as much. We have a couple allies we don't really care to protect, or if they die, they die. Who cares? But it's mainly about just the class bonus and kind of the health pool as well. And then of course the main part of the deck I would say is Nico level 2. Whenever a card with floating memory is banished from your graveyard, put a lash counter on Nico, and then on champion hit, you may have that opponent put the top X cards of their deck into their graveyard, where X is the amount of lash counters on her. We play Magebane Lash, so we're going to get a counter from that. We're just general gameplay can take some floating memory from there, and I put lash counters on her. I think some people are still a little too all in on the mill. Our deck it's not that crazy and different from a bunch of other decks, but I've seen many people just miss lethal because they're trying to go for the mill when they could just straight up go for life kill. And so don't get too distracted by milling your opponent's deck, because this deck just runs so much strength in just hitting your opponent in the face repeatedly that we don't even need that mill. We run 2 GCRs. It's backup charger, it's GCR. This replaces baubles is what it felt like, because baubles are not as guaranteed because of Slime Spirit, and so a lot of people just swap to 1 backup charger and allows extra space in your material deck to run other stuff. So a lot of times what you're going to do, you're going to go Serene Spirit, you're going to glimpse your 6, mainly looking for 1 card, which I'll get to very shortly here, and then you're just going to pass. You're going to glimpse your 6, figure out what you need to do, draw your cards, and then pass to your opponent. And most likely you're either not going to do anything, or you're going to play a different card, which again I'll get to in a bit. And then you go to your turn, you bring a backup charger, you put that down, and then you'll play what everyone probably knows, which is Icebound Slam, by the way. That's the card I'm talking about. Next we have our weapons of the deck. So Tideholder Claymore. So I don't know why people aren't running this card. I mean, I get it. It can be, your graveyard can be turned off from Nullifying Lantern, but if they're doing that, that means they're using their materialization to bring out Nullifying Lantern, and you don't have to bring this out then. Or if you already have it out, most likely you're bringing it out on the turn that you can swing with it. This is a 5 attack weapon. Don't sleep on this. It costs 1, if you're Guardian, 2 if you're Spirit, probably not Spirit, but 1 if you're Guardian. That is insane. I've seen so many people just go for Magebane Lash when they could have just gone Tideholder Claymore and just hit face for 11 damage using Ravishing Finale, and they would have won. But instead they went Magebane Lash to try to heal, or not try to heal, try to mill their opponent more. Magebane Lash gives you that lash counter, gives you that on hit, from Nico, bumps it up, I should say. And then this gets stronger, and so I get it. If you have a lot of lash counters on your champion, then cool. But if you don't, maybe just a 5 attacker weapon is what you need to close out the game already. Really cool. We do get the Nico bonus, which is whenever your champion is dealt non-combat damage, recover 2. A lot of people forget about that. You yourself don't forget about that. This can save you and heal you a lot against decks that are just trying to chip you with some spell damage early. It's usually obviously just fire, but as we get more and more decks that have a little bit more, spell damage, that comes up more and more often. And then we have some utility cards. So we have Smoke Bombs. This shouldn't be that crazy on anyone. It costs 1, which is actually kind of good for us. Again, that Magebane Lash might come up to help us mill. But more importantly, it gives something stealth so we can swing through and deal a bunch of damage. And it replaces itself when you pop it to draw that card. Ter Ring against allies. Allies is scary. They get to swing multiple times for really big numbers now. So Ter Ring is very strong because usually they want to swing twice, maybe 3 times if they have to do is rallied, and that's 6 cards from hand right there, so it stops a lot of damage that way. And then the tech card that I don't think people realize is very, very strong in this meta, which is Crimson Protective Trinket. This, costs 1, but if we have a lot of floating memory, we don't care. We might get a lash counter out of it. And then we get to reveal our opponent's memory and possibly banish 2 cards from down there if they're both wind. A lot of wind decks are on the really high count wind. This is a very, very good card. It comes up so often. People don't play around it. People don't respect it. It will help you win games, trust me. Next, let's get... Hi, Editor Isaac here. If you're counting along at home with the material deck cards, that's only 10 material deck cards. What happened to my other 2, you might ask? I have 0 clue. So the other 2 that were supposed to be in there were Vapor Jet Shield. It stops a lot of damage from chip damage from allies. Just good over a course of a long game. Really solid. And the other was Wind Bobble. There's a lot of Wind Bobble in my regionals and in my locals. And so I play that just because it's really helpful with dealing with all the wind players and getting an extra draw for free. What happened to those other 2 cards during filming? I don't know. I found out in the main deck as well, there's 64 cards. Were there 64 cards when I made the deck? No. When I went to film it, yes. So I think I grabbed 4 cards that were sitting nearby that was part of it, like initially part of it, but then removed. You guys won't even see those cards because I'm going to kick those out. But yeah, so apparently I had a rough day when filming this, but we are good now. And I hope you enjoyed the rest of the video. Thanks. So, Icebound Slam. I don't know how much more I need to say about this. This is the card you're looking for 90% of the time off of Serene Spirit. If you have it in your hand, cool. Then just use Serene Spirit to get some other stuff, to set up your hand. Otherwise, honestly, you're almost fully bottom decking for this. There's a couple cards you might want to keep still, but this is how you just explode the game into your favor. So we're really just looking at this off of Serene Spirit. It deals 8, but more importantly, it's milling you 5, which with the amount of floating memory these decks run, that is insane for you. Even if you don't hit floating memory, still, milling 5 can still be a benefit of yours depending on the decks you're playing against. We have 4 Ravishing Finale. Again, this in combination with Icebound Slam that might possibly be hitting for 8, this is hitting for 6. If you have that Claymore out, you're hitting for 11 and or 13 respectively. Don't, again, get too caught up on milling your opponent. You might just be able to kill them over the course of a couple turns because you can deal enough damage. So don't forget about that. Cerulean Decree. I see people running this as a 3 of. I don't know why. Maybe they just don't have enough. This is a 4 of. In 90% of the cases, it's going to be a better Frostbind for you because of how you hold up cards in this deck to really just facilitate your turns and trying to do what you want to do. So having this as a negate that can replace itself is very, very strong, or just reduce damage that can replace itself. This -3 will come up against allies. You -3 an attacker that's you think that's going to be restood before damage or whatever it might be, and you minus it 3, so now it's hitting you for 6 less if they're planning on restanding it. And you can kind of get the feeling of when your opponent's going to do that. So this is a very, very strong card. All the effects are very, very good on it. Then we have a 2 of Song of Frost. So these are both our utility cards. We had our attack cards and now our utility cards. Song of Frost, again, for those ally matchups, again, for, nothing crazy like, maybe Tristan. I don't really see it coming up there because of how many, like incapacitates or outlook. They can just play those things and activate their effects, and now this doesn't really do much. Where it does come up is against fire. Fire aggro Lorraine is still very real. Fire aggro Xander, maybe. Fire erupting that is running Lorraine, going for big momentums. This is very, very strong against those decks. And of course, against the mirror match. 2 Song of Frost in the mirror match. We have, I believe, 1 or 2 more on the side. Again, for all those different matchups, this comes up quite a bit for those decks that can't just instantly get out of it by playing an Outlook or an Incapacitate. Next, we have 3 Deep Sea Fractal. This is the best flex spot I can put in the deck, honestly. The only reason why I'm running it is because while I don't love it, it does come up. The milling your opponent doesn't really matter that one. Again, I'm not necessarily playing around milling my opponent, I'm playing around just killing my opponent, but this is something that mills ourselves, so if we didn't hit the Icebound Slam, and we have some Fractal Rains out, we didn't hit those either, we can start milling ourselves for a little bit, and it does replace itself in a way by having that reservable. That's the only reason why it's in there. Nothing crazy. You could swap this out for a couple other things, but I do like this because of Refracting Missiles. So because we are playing for Fractal of Rain, it actually gives us a little more options for Refracting Missiles to deal a little bit more damage. Nothing crazy, but it is, a little bit of a boost to that, which can help kill off, allies or whatever it might be earlier on than normally would have happened. So Fractal of Rain, though, imbue 2, if it's imbued, we get to start milling, basically. At the beginning of our recollection, we can choose who to mill, ourself or them. Early game, it's probably ourself. Late game, it's going to be them. Just to try to, if we're going for that mill strategy, if that's the only way we can win, then that's what we do. Otherwise, it's to mill ourselves to get some more floating memory in our drop, to maybe cycle, however we might want to do it. And then has reservable, so it replaces itself. Not a bad idea. Again, bumps that Refracting Missile. That's why it's there. And then we have Vapor Jet Shield Bearer. We do have a 4th on the side, so we have 3 in the main, 4th on the side. This ally isn't really doing much other than cycling you cards. The reason why it's a 3 of, because in most matchups it's not doing much unless the deck is just like a pure level 3 deck, and so you're actually getting several hits in with it. That's why I like it. Again, it is just another mill option to help mill ourselves early, just like that Deep Sea Fractal, just like Fractal of Rain. But it is a card we don't really want to see a ton of. We'd rather see our kill cards or just cards that are just better in general, like Frostthorn Paladin. If we have milled, any cards, Frostthorn Paladin, it allows us to get rid of a card and draw a card using the floating memory, which can put a lash counter on Nico. So if we are, again, going for that strategy or trying to make Magebane lash bigger, then that's what she's there for. Also, an insane 3/4 interceptor that is so strong against ally decks, against decks that are just trying to push you and punch you in the face. Yeah, don't leave out this card because you just want more floating memory. This is a very good card. I had it out in an initial build long ago when Nico, at the beginning of this set. That was a wrong decision, trust me. Another wrong decision that I went down to like 2 of at one point was Snow Fairy. It is a 4 of. There's so many allies and things you can rest that just makes it so beneficial for you. If you're milling this, oh well, that's why you have 4 of it. But it comes up so often just to rest a target, and people try to remove this thing. If people are taking tempo from their gameplay to remove this thing so they can get some kind of tempo back, honestly, you're pretty happy with it. It is a very kind of stalling card. Allows us to maybe rest a taunt or intercept so we can go for face, or just rest a big attacker so we just don't have to deal with it for the time being. And now we get on to more of the floating memory of the deck. Obviously, Lost in Thoughts. More often than not, honestly, I feel like I'm playing this card not to draw a bunch, but mainly to just put a floating memory in the drop so I can level up. Although, we can put this down to banish cards, to put lash counters on, to draw a bunch of cards, replace itself, all that jazz. But it's not the necessary thing we have to do with it. Sometimes it is just a throw it in the drop or put X amount of cards down so we can level up wherever it might be. And it's just very, very versatile in that manner. Next, we have 4 Chilling Touch. We're running pretty much every Fractu Eyes, or not Fractu Eyes, any floating memory we possibly can that isn't class bonus that we can still play from hand. I know there's a couple others, but we're not playing those because they just either literally can't play them still, even though they're class bonus, they don't have a class bonus, or they just, do nothing. So with Chilling Touch, we at least get to semi-stall our opponents. A lot of decks are just, like Sylvie, rush to 3 And so removing a card that makes it so they can't just level up, or that they use another card to level up, is actually huge. It really hurts their tempo, and honestly, it's allowing us just to either level up or put another floating memory drop for Ravishing Finale. You guys get the picture. I don't need to explain that too many times over again. For Fractu Eyes, using this to hit a lot of stuff is very, very good. Fracturizing an early weapon, an early boots, an early whatever. Horn Abuse Calling, Covenant of Thorns, all those options, very good. Gives us a floating memory. We like floating memory. Next up, we have 4 Refracting Missiles. We have a lot of fractals actually in the deck. We have 7. We could also fracturize our own things to give us even more. We can fracturize our own token that we get from Backup Charger, our Power Cell token. This can target item or weapon, becomes a Cleric Fractal Fantasia with Reserval. We can target our own token to make it a fractal, so it kind of pluses us 1 in a way. Not completely, but makes Refracting Missiles a little stronger too. This can actually kill off a lot of stuff. Allows us to get over something like Resolute, or maybe like a Veiling, in response to a Veiling, we can deal some damage, or on their turn we can deal some damage, all that stuff. Just, again, another versatile card. We play 4 Freezing Steel. Okay, so this card most likely is not coming up. I think there are decks that, there's very few decks, I should say, that you can actually utilize this in, but it is just a 1-cost floating memory with no class bonus that we can actually cast from hand if we have to. So if we don't have any other play, then we're using this. Otherwise, we're hoping to mill it or play it so then we can use it for a different effect, and it's just a cheap cost one. And it's, again, water, which is very important. Every card in this deck is water. We have no outliers, so our Icebound Slams always hit, and that's a very, very nice thing to see. And then we get onto the class bonus floating memory. Essentially, Storm of Thorns, really good against allies. People don't expect it. There's some weird, interactions that happen with Storm of Thorns, but in general, it is there to prevent damage to ourselves from a wide board, or, just put a floating memory in the drop when we need to. Again, sometimes you just need to burn a floating memory just to get the level 2 or it might be. Next is Diffusive Block. It's just blocking 2 damage. Floating memory, class bonus. We hit it early. It might just be in there. That's okay. Nothing really to it on that. That is the main deck there. Now we got the sideboard. So, just rounding out some numbers. 1 more Vapor Jet Shield Bearer. 2 more Song of Frost. For those same matchups I mentioned, Vapor Jet maybe for like a Merlin matchup, where they're just trying to get to level 3, so you actually put this down on turn 1 or 2 or whatever it might be and just start using its effect to get some early mills. That's actually really the best case scenario is with Vapor Jet, is that you get to clear off, or get to use against late game 3 decks, maybe even something like a Rye deck. And then Song of Frost, like I said, for the mirror, for Aggro Lorraine, for maybe Xander, Fire Aggro Xander, sorry, and anything that's just swinging big, essentially. Maybe a Tristan, if you notice they're not really playing around it, you can utilize it there. We play 3 Tidal Sweep. It's a necessary evil, I feel like. Sometimes you just need to cleave board. You can cleave board for a lot. You can get over taunts, intercepts, and stealth with a Tidal Sweep. We don't run any in the main, so we have to pay attention to what our opponent's doing in our game 1, so that way in game 2 we need to figure out if this is necessary to bring in. But it is a very good card. Unfortunately, we don't get that class bonus floating memory there, but it's really just there for another utility card, but it is expensive. But again, why we play 2 weapons, both the Claymore and Magebane Lash, is because we want to push more damage. And then we actually run 3 material deck cards. We don't do this often, but our deck has a lot of play, and I didn't really feel like there was enough cards I really needed to put into the sideboard for main deck stuff, so I just went for material deck stuff. We do play Safeguard Amulet. This, in conjunction with Magebane Lash, is actually a really good combo. You're blocking a lot of damage, more damage than your opponent thinks that they could, so against a Rye, you're actually sitting pretty well if you have both those outs. We have Tithe Proclamation, again, mainly for that Rye, mainly for that Merlin matchup. Maybe against Tristan, if you think nothing else in your sideboard is really going to be that helpful, or sorry, in your material deck is really going to be that helpful, then you can bring this in if you notice they're drawing a lot. And of course, Erupting. If you're able to get this out early on Erupting, you're going to slow them down at least a turn or 2. That might help you enough to push ahead and kill them. And then finally, Viridian Protective Trinket. It's mainly the mirror match. Mirror match is really annoying when on their turn they can counter your stuff, negate your stuff. So we play this to make that harder for them to do. That's it for the deck, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Honestly, it's not too far off from the decks that we've seen top regionals. I got to watch actually a really cool pilot of the deck, Carbonite, who actually topped 8 our regionals as well. Helped me realize how good the deck was. It can do certain things that a lot of decks do when they just want a certain set of cards right at the beginning of the game that they're looking for, but honestly it feels more consistent than it isn't, which is actually really cool to see. And so let me know what changes you would make, what things you would that you like about the deck, if you do like the deck, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.